President Trump once again doing the impossible this week, convincing a bunch of Europeans to take a work trip in the middle of August. And in the aftermath of the president's big summit with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin in Alaska just a week ago, this week Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, flanked by an envoy of European leaders, visited D.C. for the first step of what is hopefully a path to peace and now war. This time, notably, Zelensky wore a suit, kind of. Here's how Trump's peace efforts took a new turn this week in the White House. Now, I'm trying to be optimistic about the end game in Ukraine, but for all I know, this deal that they could be making may end up being remembered more like Munich in 1938, which of course is when Europe handed Hitler the Sudetenland in exchange for his promise to chill out. That didn't work, obviously. But let's take a step back and examine these theatrical and potentially, hopefully, pivotal peace meetings. It starts back in Alaska on Friday, August 15th. Off the jump, the optics of this summit in Anchorage totally over the top. Putin gets the literal red carpet rolled out for him, gets a B-2 flyover, and even a ride in the Beast. Trump even let him ramble on in a press conference about the, quote, root causes of this war that he started without taking any questions from the press.
И вот сегодня мы слышим, когда президент Трамп говорит, что если бы я был президентом, то войны бы не было. Я думаю, что так бы на самом деле и случилось. Я подтверждаю это.
The reports that emerged from that meeting suggest that Putin is looking now for a comprehensive end to the war rather than a temporary ceasefire. But there's a significant catch there, of course. Ukraine would have to essentially give up the Donbas and Crimea regions, and in exchange, Putin would promise in writing not to attack or to occupy any new territories in Ukraine or Europe. How much is Putin's word worth in writing? Nothing, right? Can't trust him at all. But in the end, Trump said this was a, quote, very productive meeting. Still, no deal. Despite the president telling reporters on Air Force One on the way to Alaska that
I want to see a ceasefire rapidly. I don't know if it's going to be today, but I'm not going to be happy if it's not today.
That's a very different posture from the White House, which, leading up to Alaska, had been downplaying expectations for any sort of deal out of that meeting.
The goal of this meeting for the president is to walk away with a better understanding of how we can end this war.
So Democrats and some in the media criticized the inconclusive summit as a big
nothing burger. It was a shrug of the shoulders.
Did he actually just make peace less likely?
But Trump and his supporters hailed it as a huge win.
President Trump is the only leader in the world, acknowledged by all the Europeans, the only leader in the world that can talk to both of them and bring them both to a meeting.
Thanks to President Trump's efforts, we finally have movement after years of deadly gridlock.
To be fair to them, it did precipitate what appears to be the first real breakthrough in the stalemate of this war. Putin reportedly saying that he was open for the first time to U.S. security guarantees for Ukraine. In the background of the Alaska summit, though, Zelensky still fuming as Russia continued to carry out attacks across Ukraine while also saying that it wants peace.
В день перемовин вони теж вбивають, і це багато говорить.
But one day, in a phone call later, Zelensky announced a stateside visit to the White House for these talks, and he brought his muscle this time.
Security guarantees.
Security guarantees.
Security guarantees.
Security guarantees.
Security guarantees.
Backed by 7 top European leaders, Zelensky pushed for concrete, you guessed it,
security guarantees.
And it seemed like everyone was on their best behavior at this meeting. Unlike the last time Zelensky was in town,
You're gambling with World War III.
Trump was in good spirits. Vice President J.D. Vance pretty much kept his mouth shut.
I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media.
Even the MAGA press complimented the wartime leader on his outfit.
Why don't you wear a suit?
You look fabulous in that suit.
Importantly, Trump seemed open to this idea of U.S. security guarantees, which he hadn't been before.
When it comes to security, there's going to be a lot of help.
It still remains unclear what those guarantees would look like. Trump has said one thing it won't look like.
U.S. boots will not be on the ground in Ukraine.
So in the end, these terms would be a big concession for Ukraine, obviously, but it would also be something of a concession for the Russians. Even if Putin succeeds in this land grab, which it sounds like he might, Ukraine would be further entrenched under the West military umbrella, becoming almost like a shadow NATO member.
We will give them very good protection, very good security.
Bottom line here, Trump is moving the ball down the field toward an endgame.
There's no deal until there's a deal.
But for now, at least, everybody seems to be playing ball, even Vladimir Putin, while he advances on the battlefield.